Hello everybody and welcome back to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing something that I am very excited to do. One of you guys actually requested that I do this video and what was I gonna do? Say no? It sounds so fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. I'm assuming you have already read the title and you know that I'm going to be ranking all of the Shadowhunters books that are out currently. There are 19 that are out currently, so we have a lot to get through here. I actually already filmed this video, but I did like zero planning prior to that. I literally ranked them on the spot and like half of the video was me saying, oh, I don't remember what happens in this book. So I've done a little bit of research, just a little bit. I've collected my thoughts for once. And I am now going to present to you my definitive ranking of all of the Shadowhunters books. Also, this video is going to have like not huge spoilers for all of the series, but huge spoilers for some of the series. So if you haven't read like the main 4 series, wouldn't recommend watching this. So other than that, let's get into it. So I'm going to be starting off with number 19 and working my way up to number 1. I'm sure you all already know what number 1 is, but maybe some of you don't, and it'll be a surprise. So starting with number 19, I originally put City of Bones for this, but after some reevaluation, City of Ashes is gonna be my number 19. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments, and it's just so much worse than the first upon further evaluation because it takes my main problem with the first book and it's just like so much worse because they're aware of it, but they're still like, hey. And it's not okay. The one thing that the first book has going for it is that the plot is like really fast paced. I feel like there's a lot of things that happen in this book and I felt like my attention was always like captured by it, but in this book it was just kind of slow moving. I feel like not a lot really happened. A point in this book's favor though is that Simon turns into a vampire and becomes significantly less insufferable, so there's something. Moving on to number 18, I've put City of Fallen Angels. I looked up a plot summary for this one, and I literally don't remember any of that happening. Not a single bit. Nothing. Let me see here. I have a single tab in this book, and it's because he was about to hit somebody with a coat rack. That's it. That's all I got. Doesn't bode well for it though. Here's where I ended up putting City of Bones for number 17. See, the thing is, I was really enjoying this book. I thought it was fast-paced, it was fun, it reminded me a lot of the stuff that I was reading in middle school because, well, I mean, this came out when I was like, before I was in middle school, but I didn't get to it until this year. So it just really took me back to the kind of books that I was reading in middle school, and it was just like, such a good time. The urban fantasy was interesting, but then, like, the last couple chapters of the book just like hit me in the face. They're like, by the way, they're siblings. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I remember I literally sat there just staring at the page like, what? I 100% looked up to see where the plot was going because if they actually were related, I was gonna stop right there. I was really just not gonna continue on with any of the Shadowhunter books, but thankfully that wasn't a okay, well, like, it is a problem, but it stopped. Whatever, it's just not good. It was off to a good start. Couldn't cross the finish line. This is the only book in the entirety of the Shadowhunters Chronicles that I gave 2 stars. Although I feel like upon further evaluation, I should give some others 2 stars. I'll think about it later. So I'm gonna stop hating on the Mortal Instruments for like 2 seconds here and talk about my number 16 and 15, which are The Lost Book of the White and The Red Scrolls of Magic, respectively. So The Lost Book of the White, I think, is gonna be number 16 because it just meh. I enjoyed the part of this book where we were following around the characters from the Mortal Instruments because I think this does take place in the middle of like the second half of the Mortal Instruments. So I enjoyed following around the characters more because I do like the cast of characters, but the plot of this book was just not interesting at all to me. The villain, if you can even call her that, like, she's kind of a villain. Shin-Yun was boring. I wasn't into it. Very lackluster. Same thing kind of goes for number 15, which is the Red Scrolls of Magic. I liked the setting of this book where they were like going on a train ride across Europe for their vacation. It was cute. I liked seeing all of the different cities in Europe, and I think some of the institutes were also talked about, which I enjoyed. But generally, the main conflict of this book was just meh. Like, where was it? It was kind of just very uninteresting to me. I did, however, like to see the relationship between Alec and Magnus develop more, because you don't really get to see that in the Mortal Instruments, but here you get like, it's kind of just focused on them, and that was cool. But aside from that, it didn't really impress me. I will, however, be reading the Black Volume of the Dead. I don't know when that's coming out, but at whatever point that comes out, obviously, I will have to read it. Will I like it though? Remains to be seen. Moving on to number 14, which I am going to put City of Glass. This book, I do remember it being like my favorite out of the first three. The plot was like okay, it wasn't my favorite thing. I also don't really like big battle sequences, but that's kind of, you know, what happens at the end of series, so that's really on me. I also enjoyed the introduction of Sebastian in this book, because obviously don't like that bitch. Not a fan. But he is like the most, I think, well-developed and complex villain that is in any of the Shadowhunter series, so he is generally my favorite, like, conflict, you know? I also like the very last scene where they're at Lakeland and seeing all of the drama that develops out of that. I liked how it wrapped up the first little trilogy. It was okay. Moving to 13. 13 is going to be City of Lost Souls. I, again, had a lot of trouble trying to remember what happened in this book because I don't know, but I looked up a plot summary and I think I've made an adequate decision here. Just like the rest of them, I'm not really like that impressed with the plot. And like, it was an okay book, but it wasn't like mind-blowing or anything, but it does have a couple of points in its favor. I really enjoyed seeing Simon like finally struggling with what he's become, and I like seeing his internal conflict with the fact that like he can't go back to his house because his mother will like ostracize him because, you know, he is a vampire. But the one thing that makes me so mad in this book, and it still makes me mad to this day, is how Alec was talking to Camille about like, I don't know what it was, like something to do with taking away Magnus's immortality, and I was like, what? Who do you think you are, sir? I feel like he has adequately atoned for it, but also what? Why? That's just like, it's awful. And that is why I have some issues with Alec, and that's like my main one, because why would he do that? Number 12 is City of Heavenly Fire. Now this was my favorite one in all of this series. I remember probably the most about it, so that really says something. My main thing that I enjoyed about this is that it set up the dark artifices very well, but I do remember when I first started this book, it opens up on, I think it's like Emma and Julian and all of the people in the Los Angeles Institute, and I was so confused. I was like, what? Who are these people? What's going on? I do not know any of them. But after reading the Dark Artifices, I can look back on that and think like, wow, that was like an interesting way to intro a new series, you know? I enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the general direction that this plot went, like seeing them go into Edom, I felt like really broke up this really, like, it's a pretty chunky book. The ending of this book was like kind of meh, I don't know. I just remember I was listening to it like on audio and I was half paying attention because it didn't really grasp my attention that much. At that point I was like, I want this series to be done. It was like okay, but there are other parts of it that I liked more. Mainly I liked seeing the relationship develop between Simon and Izzy because I love them. But then the ending kind of ripped them apart, which was unfortunate for him, but he really took one for the team. And that is another time in which I started liking Simon more. I do have some issues with the ending of this book, and it is just gonna be me airing my own grievances because I'm stupid and I didn't look into it. But the very last scene in this book where they are at Jocelyn and Luke's wedding, where Tessa shows up with this mystery man, and they just call him Brother Zachariah, really... It really ruined the last book of the Infernal Devices for me. And the thing is, I should have read the Infernal Devices after I read the first 3 books of the Mortal Instruments, but I didn't because I did not know that. So just throughout the Infernal Devices, I was like, well, it's either Will or Jem who is, you know, alive in the future. And seeing the way that the Infernal Devices was going, I figured it was going to be Jem, that he was going to be turned into a silent brother. And I was like, damn it, Katie. It would have been such a good reveal. I feel like I would have had so many more emotions towards Clockwork Princess had I not known that. but it's fine. I'm fine. It's completely my fault. Anyway, I'm fine. For number 11, I'm going to put the Bane Chronicles. This is probably my least favorite of all of these short story collections, which is sad because I love Magnus so much, but I felt like generally none of the stories really wowed me that much. The one thing that I really did appreciate with this one and Ghosts of the Shadow Market is that they both follow kind of like immoral characters, just characters that, you know, last longer than the normal character, so you could really follow them over a bunch of different decades, and I really enjoyed that. My favorite out of this collection was The Midnight Heir. Duh. That's mainly just because I love James Herondale with all my heart, but that's besides the point. Alright, for number 10, is this 10? Yes. For number 10, I'm going to put Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. This was the first of the short story collections that I read, and it really made me want to read the other ones because I originally didn't really think I was going to enjoy it that much, but alas, I did. I've mentioned this a lot, but I really hated Simon in the Mortal Instruments, but this book made me really take a step back, and I like Simon now. He's okay. Also, like, the main romantic conflict that was like woven throughout all of these stories between Simon and Izzy, I love. And I like how you could see the development of them getting to know each other happen throughout this book. It was just really nice because I felt so bad for them in City of Heavenly Fire, but I feel like they kind of got some resolution. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, they got resolution. They literally get married, but okay. Another thing about the setup of this book is that it felt like a very linear story, even though they're like a bunch of short stories about different things that have happened at different points in time. But the fact that it just followed Simon over the course of a year made it feel more continuous than the other short stories have, which I don't fault the others for, but I just really thought the setup of this one was really good too. As for my favorite stories in this one, the Whitechapel Fiend for sure. Obviously I'm trash for anything that involves the characters from the Infernal Devices. It was just really interesting. I liked it a lot. I also liked Pale Kings and Princes, which follows like Helen and Mark Blackthorne. Love them too. However, the ending of this book made me very upset. Poor George. Number 9 is going to be Lady Midnight, which is the first book in the Dark Artifices, obviously. I really loved this cast of characters a lot. The family dynamic between all of them was really fun to read about because, you know, instead of watching them get to know each other, they already know each other. So you can just see how they interact normally. Also, the forbidden romance. It was just so angsty in this first, I mean, it's angsty in all of them, but it was like really angsty in this first book, and I love that. Also, the ending where like Emma is gonna pretend to date Mark and it like really doesn't work, but it's just funny because the very last page of this is just like, I don't even remember what they say. It's just funny. The plot in this series isn't necessarily my favorite part. I feel like it has a strong plot, but it also has a lot of character work, and I felt like it was a good balance. So moving on to number 8 is Lord of Shadows. Honestly, this book just made me realize that the real antagonist of this series was Zara Dearborn. That bitch made me so mad. Every time she was on the page, I was like audibly booing. There's also a portion of this book where they go to London. They go to some of the institutes in London, which has a lot of like, not necessarily background because this happened after The Last Hours, but it's just very connected to The Last Hours, which I obviously really enjoyed. But the ending of this book, again, made me very sad. I was upset. The thing is, I knew it happened too, and I was still upset. Moving on to number 7, we have Queen of Air and Darkness. I really enjoyed this book. I think I finished this book in the span of like 2 days, which is honestly a feat because it's like maybe a little bit over 900 pages. Like, it was a lot, but I was honestly eating it up. It was so good. This has like one of my favorite plot points in any of the Shadowhunters books because they go into Thule, which is like the parallel universe or whatever, and you get to see what happens had Sebastian won the Mortal War, and I just found that fascinating. I also felt like there were a lot of different settings in this book, which really broke up the 900 pages because, you know, at one point they're just chilling in the Los Angeles Institute, then they go to Ferry, then they go to Thule, and I feel like there's just a lot of different settings that they're in, and it just really it broke it up well, and it made the 900 pages feel like literally nothing. And I also really enjoyed the final battle sequence. Usually battles don't really do a whole lot for me, but introduce two 50-foot people and I'm interested. So That was quite the ending. I really enjoyed seeing what actually happened when two parabatai fell in love with each other, because it's always like hinted that like you shouldn't do that, but like why? And now you know why. And it was so weird. I was like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening, but I'm interested. So for number 6, I'm gonna put Clockwork Princess. I obviously love this book. It was really good, but it is my least favorite of the series. Generally, I don't know, the plot of this book is just less interesting. I feel like I get less character work in this book. I mean, except towards the end, but like for the most part, they're just trying to solve their issues with Mortmain, and I'm like, I don't care about Mortmain. I want to see Gem Carstairs, and I did, that's basically my problem. There wasn't enough gem in this, and I'm leaving it at that. Yes. Number 5 remedies my issue, because it's Ghosts of the Shadow Market, which obviously follows, you know, my favorite character from any of the Shadowhunters books, so obviously I loved it. It was so good. Specifically because, you know, you follow him from the what is it, 1870s to modern day. You can really see glimpses into like every single series, because he's more connected to like the Shadowhunters than Magnus is in the Bane Chronicles, so I feel like you really get better snippets into other things that are happening in her other series, which I enjoyed a lot. Specifically The Last Hours, because there's a story that follows Anna and I think another one that follows Matthew, so it provides like more background in these characters that I love, so obviously I love them. Honestly, these last 4 I'm not gonna have a lot of coherent thoughts about, because I've talked about them so much and I feel like I've said everything there is to say, so I'm just kind of like, yeah. Clockwork Angel is number 4. It was such a good introduction to all of these characters into the world. The setting of this series is absolutely immaculate. My camera stopped recording, so that's awesome. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was talking about how Will Herondale is he's a character already. I was going into the series, I was like, everybody loves this man. I'm sure I will also love this man. And then he opened his mouth and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Obviously he like redeems himself in Clockwork Princess, and you understand what's going on maybe in Clockwork Prince. I'm not sure when they reveal like what actually is his deal, but just the fact that he was never actually cursed pisses me off, because he's been suffering for so long for no reason, and I can't start talking about it. I'm gonna go on a rant. Number 3, I'm going to put Chain of Iron. Oh, these books, just The Last Hours really gets me. It's so good. I'm so interested to see what my overall thoughts of the series are gonna be once Chain of Thorns comes out, because honestly, I think there is potential for me to consider The Last Hours to be my favorite over the Infernal Devices. Gonna put that out there. Controversial opinion, I know, because I've literally talked so much about it, but it's fine. Just, okay, back to Chain of Iron. This book, I love seeing the ramifications of what happens in Chain of Gold in this book. It's just so good. It's the fake marriage. It's just everything. Oh my god. Also, I really enjoyed the inclusion of like a mystery kind of plot in this book. I feel like it's just a really nice touch along with like everything else that's happening, because you're like, oh my god, who is killing these Shadowhunters? And then you got like some red herrings. It's like a good classic mystery, and I don't really like mystery that much, but I liked the inclusion of it in this plot, because you also got like really good character work, which I feel like is not what you usually get in like a traditional mystery, but just the melding of the two was really cool. The ending of this book though is incredibly frustrating, because the other book doesn't come out for like another 11 months, and I'm like, damn it, what do I do now? Moving on to number 2, we have Chain of Gold. Again, I think I talked about this book in my last video, so I'm not gonna go into it. It's just so good. So now we are down to my number 1. Literally no surprise here. I already claimed this is my favorite book in like 3 other videos, but obviously Clockwork Prince is number 1. Oh my god, what I would give to read this book again for the first time. I would sell my soul. I think I would sell my cat. I would sell my car just for the opportunity to experience this again for the first time. Sorry, Fritz. I feel like the main reason I like this book is because you can see the love triangle coming to like full fruition, and I'm not mad about it. I just feel like there's so much development in all of the relationships in this book, and again, I eat that up. That's my ranking of the Shadowhunters books. I really hope you enjoyed. I would love to know your ranking. Obviously, you may not want to rank all 19 of them, but let me know like what your top 3 or like your bottom 3. Let me know. I'm very curious. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!